pretty girl. I woke you up from your nap. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. It's been forever since I've just kind of sat down and talked with you guys. So in this video, I'll be discussing with you a few virtues I've learned about myself the same way like if I'm having a late night talk with a friend, and discuss a chapter of my life where I essentially withdrew back into my bubble. And you know, in retrospect, this period was so transformative and beneficial for my well-being, as scary and weird as it may sound on the surface. You know, we live in a world full of distractions and daily obligations that take time away from creating space for ourselves and sitting with ourselves, connecting with ourselves on that deeper level. Shadow work, as some may call it. And you know, growing up, I was always the kid asking why. Like, I was never satisfied with service level answered, and I was always curious and getting to the deeper root of certain causes. So as an adult, for a period, I turned this curiosity inward and focused solely on introspection and self-improvement. Starting from the very beginning, I'll be sharing with you some things I've learned along the way, as well as how I apply this new knowledge to my life in tangible ways. Dark night of the soul. How do I explain such a profound experience to those closest to me? It's something I caught myself asking myself quite often when simply trying to be understood, especially to those around me who it just kind of seemed like they were in different seasons of their life, right? My own inner resistance prolonging this process of identity shift, which led me feeling more inclined to isolate and just sit with myself. The hermit phase. Although I wouldn't advise the lone wolf path for long to anyone unless you feel innately called to it. Feeling a deep sense of so many more possibilities in life, even if I wasn't aware of what so many more was at the moment. A feeling of disconnection to later discover what true connection is. Feeling misunderstood to offering my own understanding to others. A collapse meaning of life to later discover that, hey, maybe I create my own meaning in life. Conceptual death, ego death. Understanding that there is a level of importance in having a healthy ego. Knowing how to utilize my ego in a healthy way versus being consumed by it. Because ultimately there is no 5 or 6 step checklist to healing and self-improvement, because everyone's path is truly unique. My hermit phase was essential for my healing. I found myself becoming withdrawn from people, places, hobbies, daily activities, and just feeling stuck. In those moments, I began to utilize them as opportunities to find patterns within myself through thought, through action, or experiences that I used to ignore or simply be oblivious to. Because you know, there reaches a point where all human wisdom and intellect phase, and all that's left is a God or infinite intelligence that's always been accessible, not only to me, but to us as a collective. I spent a lot of time revisiting old traumas and my upbringing, and acknowledging my loved ones for who they are, acknowledging their unresolved trauma with grace. I realized that maybe it's due to our programming to focus more so on the negative, but one thing I began doing was taking account of my inner strengths and qualities, as other things such as my accomplishments, my material possessions, and my identity all had lost its meaning and importance. To further describe this is almost like a regressing to the lowest version of myself, with all traumas and wounds just resurfacing simultaneously. Even suicidal thoughts, even though I knew I was unlikely to follow through on them. So what triggered mine was an accumulation of events through a period of time and trigger wounds. A breakdown, illness, grief, even reaching an all-time high in life and still feeling unfulfilled. Though now I kind of look back at it with this perspective that time and life are intertwined, recognizing that all of these past experiences simply helped me face myself, and understanding that they help shape who I am today. Surrendering to me is relinquishing control of what is and creating space for me to fill my own cup with something else outside of my own negative thoughts and programming. For the longest, I had this perfectionist streak in me where things had to go a certain way. I micromanaged my life where things had to go a certain way, and when it didn't, it just caused me to exert more force and control and fear of failure, a deep fear of failure. And you know, it's in our human nature to feel helpless when we aren't in control, right? So it almost feels like the wrong and weak thing to do to just surrender. However, I look at it now as like surrendering is a form of energetic release. Surrendering in time helped me move into this place of acceptance, as there was no longer this innate resistance to people or circumstances I don't like, which in most cases I don't really have any control over. I practice observing through a lens of fresh perspective. And through surrendering, it's almost like I release the weight of the world off my shoulders. Not saying there aren't days where I don't have negative emotions. In fact, I meet myself on days like that with grace, and I lean into those emotions and simply let them pass. However, through surrendering, I began to notice this sense of detachment that's never fucking left me. I began releasing judgment for how the flow of my life is supposed to go, and releasing expectations for how people in general just show up in my life. And you know, coincidentally, this created a space for more authentic conversations with strangers through certain synchronicities, or just rendezvousing at the right place at the right time, and seeing people for who they are in that present moment. Ultimately, surrendering the need to control anything outside of myself. Through this, I began to move closer towards inner peace and focus on my core values, focus on the things that I personally value, the people I value, and most importantly, happiness itself. Lastly, surrendering in time also helped me escape victim mentality and claim ownership of my life. Because you know, life is a never-ending journey with no final destination, unless you count death, which I just feel it's the end of our human experience. However, I've learned to observe situations that arise through time, and instead of victimizing myself in those moments, I began to ask myself, what is this showing me? What is this reflecting back to me? What is self-validation to me? So a lot of this I wrote in great detail in my journal during this whole purging hermit phase that I was in. Self-validation to me is acknowledging and accepting my own internal well-being, whether it be through my thoughts or emotions, giving myself a mental pat on the back, and giving myself grace. Self-validation helped me improve my own self-awareness and personal understanding. It's an act of observing my internal world without judging, labeling, or belittling myself, solidifying inner strength while eliminating confusion and self-doubt. I read this in a book not too long ago, and I firmly stick to this belief, right? A form of self-sabotage is waiting for your gifts and your voice, your ideas to be validated by others before allowing yourself to validate and express them. In short, I stopped looking out here for validation. Practicing this allowed me to pivot from self-improvement to self-discovery. And you know, I watched a YouTube video like 6 months ago titled "You Are Not a Self-Improvement Project." And the video alone was really insightful, but the title deeply resonated with me as someone who was harshly criticized at times if I didn't meet the needs and expectations of others. And I say unrealistic because I don't feel as if there should be this universal standard that everyone should abide by, because we are all our own individuals, right? Being scolded and sculpted into an image not truly reflective of me. Growing up, I developed this harsh inner self-critic, and you know, as I got older, particularly over the past few years, I caught myself always kind of looking to fix my imperfections or live up to lofty expectations, not only set by others, but set by my fucking self. Though I'm not saying there's fault in having high standards. The reality is life is ever changing, and there will always be new lessons to learn, and there will always be a newer version of yourself that you will yearn for, because we are here to grow and expand. I just say that to say I can acknowledge the accomplishments and improvements within myself without focusing on my flaws or fixing what was never broken or ruminating on things that I haven't accomplished. As we attain our desires and work towards our goals, it's only natural to give birth to new desires to work towards. So it's important that you validate yourself every fucking step of the way, because no one else is here to do that for you. What is vulnerability to me? Vulnerability is the willingness to express myself in fear of being judged or rejected, being open and honest in the face of uncertainty. We still live in a society where men in particular being vulnerable kind of goes against the macho masculine stigma of what a man should be, right? And this materialized in my life in a way where Happiness, anger, or putting on this tough guy facade were most often acceptable. By practicing this, later I began to suppress other emotions in fear of being viewed as less than. Although this approach is so politically incorrect, being a self-aware adult now, I try to create a safe space for those around me to feel comfortable being vulnerable, right? I feel as though people need security to release and express themselves authentically. And I can almost always refer back to a moment in time with my closest relationships where both parties were open and vulnerable, whether it be through general conversation or in moments of conflict. Because it's through those moments where we cultivate a stronger connection with one another because we are truly present with one another. I believe I truly never get to know a person until they've expressed their vulnerabilities with me, because it just signifies that we've built a level of mutual trust. It's like we're so encouraged by society to not be in tune with our own sensitivity, and this in turn just results in us losing the capacity to regulate our emotions properly and connect with others on a sincere, deeper level, because you can only meet other people at the level which you met yourself. Without that genuine connection, how can we truly have fulfilling relationships with one another? Attached to nothing, connected to everything. This is a mantra that I try to embody and practice routinely. And through this, I realized that everything always starts with me by tapping into that deeper consciousness, which has always been accessible to everyone as a collective, because we all are a consciousness. Though it's important to note that everyone's path is truly different, neither is it linear. On my journey, there have been moments of intense growth and expansion, and of course this materializes in the physical world around me, but there are equal moments of challenges, doubt, uncertainty, and confusion. And through each state, though it's gradual, it's brought me to a greater sense of empathy for others, having that ability to live in the present moment, whether it be by myself or with another individual, connecting with others on that deeper level, and finding beauty and gratitude in the tangible little things on a daily basis, feeling more secure in my skin, and most importantly, something I've tried to cultivate within myself in the last year, inner peace. Because as Lauryn Hill once said, how are you gonna win if you ain't right within? That is a lyric that will forever be etched in my mind. So how I apply this new knowledge now is by coming back to love and showing up every day for myself. And showing up for myself may look different every day, but what I mean by this is being my own best friend, giving myself grace, the same grace that I would give someone close to me, that same forgiveness that I give to someone else. Doing this, my intent is to inspire other people to be fearless and overcome their own fears, however that may manifest itself. We are body, mind, and soul. This is fact. And I do believe just because of the modern times we're in now, things can get a little too spiritual, right? But I understand it because spirituality isn't everything. However, I do believe we are here to learn and grow, expand, and experience the human way of life. I don't believe the end goal of our human experience is to be spiritual, but to be enlightened. You kind of feel the difference of weight between the words. One is egotistical, the other is a state of being. Having a greater awareness and deeper connection makes everyday life experiences that more blissful, and it allows me personally to live more intentional. But spirituality shouldn't be something that we glamorize and idolize the sense of self behind. So I trust that this video gave you insight and support, and if it did, if you made it this far, go down to the comments and comment a black heart. It'll be something only me and you will know about. Also, while you're at it, feel free to share your thoughts. I will be reading every comment. I love reading about other people's personal experiences and things that they've learned and how they've applied it to their life. And lastly, my goal is to simply be open and authentic, because the world needs more of that. So I appreciate you guys for watching. Do not forget to leave me a like and subscribe, and I will see y'all in my next video. Hi. Hi, pretty girl. I woke you up from your nap.